The first three notes of the power of love still do something to you. If you grew up with that sound, you already know. It meant Friday nights, it meant summer, it meant being 15 and believing time travel was just around the corner. Back to the Future came out 41 years ago. Some of the faces from that film have changed in ways you'd never expect. And one of them left us just 3 months ago. It wasn't just a movie. It was the feeling that the past and future were both worth caring about. And the people who brought it to life carried that feeling with them long after the cameras stopped. I'd love to know who you watched this with for the first time. A parent on the couch. A friend who wouldn't stop quoting Doc Brown. Those memories are what this channel is built on. And I read every single one. And we start with a face you'll recognize the second you see him, even though the real man couldn't be more different from the character he played. The man who made you flinch every time he said, "Hey, McFly," is, in real life, one of the kindest people to ever walk a film set. Thomas F. Wilson was 26 when he became Biff Tannen. He played the bully so well that fans still flinch when they see him in person. But here's what most people never knew. Wilson was the kid who got bullied. Skinny, sickly, shy. He once said he drew on every painful memory from junior high to make Biff feel real. That's not acting from ego. That's acting from a scar. After the trilogy, he didn't chase blockbusters. He built a life that looks nothing like Biff's. Stand-up comedy, clean enough for any room. Oil paintings collected by Disney and Nickelodeon. A YouTube channel where he talks to fans like old friends. He even wrote a song called Biff's Question Song to lovingly answer the same 5 questions he gets asked at every convention. Today, at 67, Wilson still carries the same spark we remember. He married Caroline Thomas on July 6, 1985. 3 days after Back to the Future premiered. They're still together, 4 kids. And in 2025, 3 of his paintings hung in a fine art exhibition at the Forest Lawn Museum. The man who landed face first in manure became a working artist. Sometimes the best story isn't the one on screen. Not everyone from Hill Valley stayed in front of the camera. Some found a completely different way to make their mark. For a generation of kids, Lorraine Baines was the reason you looked at your own mother a little differently. Not because of the plot, because Leah Thompson made you realize that the woman making dinner had once been young, nervous, full of impossible dreams. That was the gift she gave us, without a single word of dialogue explaining it. Thompson was 23 when she played both the teenage Lorraine and her older self under layers of aging makeup. After Back to the Future made her the most sought-after actress of 1985, she made a choice nobody understood at the time. She picked Howard the Duck. It flopped. Hollywood has a short memory for that kind of gamble, but Thompson has a long one. When roles for women over 50 started disappearing, she didn't wait for permission. She walked behind the camera. Starting with Hallmark's Jane Doe films in 2006, she taught herself to direct. 2 decades later, her credits include The Goldbergs, Will Trent, Resident Alien, Star Trek Picard, and Mom. In a recent interview, she put it plainly, "How can I stay relevant in this business I love without fighting over scraps?" Today, at 65, time has only deepened her elegance. Her daughter Zoe Deutsch is now a rising star in her own right. And Thompson still acts, still directs, still mentors younger talent on every set she walks onto. She refused to let anyone else write the second half of her story. Very few actors can say they belonged to 2 of the most beloved franchises in film history. Mark McClure can. Before he was Dave McFly, the older brother stuck in a fast food uniform, he was Jimmy Olsen, Superman's Jimmy Olsen. the only actor to play the role across all 4 Christopher Reeve films and Supergirl. 5 movies as one character. Then Zemeckis called, and he became part of another family entirely. McClure was 28 when he filmed Back to the Future. He'd already worked with director Zemeckis twice before and shared a set with Wendy Jo Sperber in I Want to Hold Your Hand years earlier. They became the McFly siblings. That wasn't just casting, that was real familiarity. Today, at 69, he carries his story in every line. Semi-retired and living quietly near his roots, he still shows up at conventions where Superman fans and Back to the Future fans meet him in the same line. 3 of his films sit in the National Film Registry. Not bad for the guy in the fast food uniform. Picture the last scene. Marty's in the driveway. Jennifer runs toward him. He pulls her close. And just before the DeLorean lifts off, she's right there beside him. That was Claudia Wells. She was 18 years old, and she almost wasn't in the movie at all. Wells had been cast, then pulled away when a TV pilot got picked up. Then Eric Stoltz was let go, production shifted, and suddenly she was free again. She came back to a different Marty, a different energy, and stepped into a role that would follow her for the rest of her life. But what came next wasn't a sequel. It was real life, and it asked for everything she had. When her mother became seriously ill, Wells walked away from Hollywood. Not for a break, for good, she thought. Elizabeth Shue took over the role in parts 2 and 3. Wells spent those years where she needed to be. Her mother passed in 1994, and instead of coming back to auditions, Wells opened a small luxury clothing store in Studio City called Armani Wells. That was 1991. She still runs it today, by appointment, with her own hands. She did return to acting quietly in 2011. She voiced Jennifer again for the Back to the Future video game. She shows up at conventions with a warmth that catches people off guard. She's a founding board member of Kids in the Spotlight, helping foster youth tell their stories through film. Today, at 59, she radiates the same warmth decades later. Not because fame kept her visible, because something deeper did. If any of these stories are landing the way they're landing for me, I think you'll love what's still ahead. There are faces coming that carry some of the most surprising turns I've ever come across. I'd love to hear which one stays with you. There's someone in this film you probably walked right past, but 12 years later, you couldn't miss him if you tried. In 1985, a 19-year-old kid from Chicago showed up in Hollywood with no credits and no connections. 3 weeks later, he was on the set of the biggest movie of the year, holding a matchstick between his teeth and standing behind Biff Tannen. That kid was Billy Zane. His character didn't even have a real name in the script, just Match. One of 3 nameless thugs. No lines anyone remembers, no close-ups. But Zane treated that set like a classroom, and the lesson took. A few years later, he held his own against Nicole Kidman in Dead Calm. Less than a decade after that, he stood on the deck of the Titanic as Cal Hockley, the villain audiences loved to despise in the highest-grossing film of its era. First role to final boss villain. That's a career arc you can't write. Today, at 60, he's more striking now than ever. In 2025, he disappeared under prosthetics to play Marlon Brando in Waltzing with Brando. He paints abstract expressionist art and shows it in galleries around the world. The Matchstick Kid found his fire a long time ago. George McFly did something no one in that movie theater expected. He clenched his fist, swung, and knocked Biff Tannen to the ground. The entire audience exhaled. The underdog won. And the actor who made that moment land was a 21-year-old named Crispin Glover, who brought something to George that no script could have planned. He made timidity feel noble. He made the quietest person in the room, the one you rooted for, the hardest. What Glover did next is unlike anything else on this list. He didn't follow the expected Hollywood path. He wasn't in Back to the Future Part 2 in the traditional sense. The filmmakers used prosthetics and archived footage to recreate his likeness without his involvement. That decision changed how the industry handles an actor's image to this day. But Glover was already somewhere else entirely. He'd bought a 17th-century chateau outside Prague, 20 acres, a cultural landmark, and over 2 decades, he restored it stone by stone, converting the old horse stables into working sound stages. He turned a castle into a film studio, his own film studio, where he writes, directs, and stars in surreal features that he tours around the world in 35mm film, one theater at a time. In late 2025, his third feature premiered at the Museum of Modern Art in New York. It co-starred his father, veteran character actor Bruce Glover, in what became his final role. Bruce passed away in March 2025 at 92, a father and son, acting together for the first and last time inside a castle they both loved. Today, at 62, Glover looks almost untouched by the years. He lives between Los Angeles, New York, and the Czech Republic. He's already filming his next project. The kid who punched Biff never stopped swinging. He just chose a different ring. We've saved 2 voices for last. You already know the first one. But you might not know just how much he's given since the cameras stopped rolling. You remember the red vest, the skateboard, the way he ran. If you close your eyes, you can still see him sprinting through the parking lot of Twin Pines Mall, breathless, terrified, completely alive. Michael J. Fox was 24 years old. He was filming Family Ties during the day and Back to the Future through the night, sleeping 3 or 4 hours between them. Nobody on set knew it couldn't last. They just knew he was magic. He made Marty McFly feel like us, not a superhero, not a genius, just a kid who loved his family, played guitar in a garage band, and kept getting back up every time he got knocked down. That's why we held on to him. That's why we still do. Fox was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 1991. He was 29. He kept it private for 7 years before sharing it with the world in 1998. And instead of stepping away, he stepped forward. He created the Michael J. Fox Foundation, which has now raised over $2.5 billion for Parkinson's research. Not million, billion. That number is real. In 2023, the documentary Still reminded us who he is when nobody's watching. In 2025, he published the memoir Future Boy. That same year, he received the Presidential Medal of Freedom, and his foundation funded well over $100 million in new research grants in late 2025 and early 2026 alone. He wrote an op-ed pushing for important legislation. He walked Central Park with thousands of families at the Unity Walk in April. He's not slowing down. He's just running a different kind of race. But Marty was only half of the story's heart. The other half has white hair, wild eyes, and is still going at 87. What kind of person nearly turns down the role that will define their entire life? Christopher Lloyd almost did. He was in Mexico when his agent called. He wanted to do a play back east. He wasn't sure a summer comedy about a teenager and a time machine was worth the trip. His wife told him to at least take the meeting. He took the meeting, and the world got Doc Brown. Lloyd was 46 years old. He'd already won 2 Emmys for playing the burned-out Reverend Jim on Taxi. He'd already appeared in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. He didn't need this movie. But from the moment he stepped onto that parking lot set, with those wild eyes and that white hair, and shouted, "Great Scott!" something locked into place. He wasn't playing a character anymore. He was giving a generation its favorite eccentric uncle. Doc Brown was the adult who never talked down to you, the one who treated a teenager like a partner, like an equal, like someone whose ideas mattered. In a decade full of authority figures telling kids to sit down and behave, Doc handed Marty the keys and said, "Let's go." That's why we loved him. Not because he was funny, because he believed in us. After the trilogy, Lloyd kept choosing the roles that let him disappear. Judge Doom in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Uncle Fester in The Addams Family, a Klingon commander in Star Trek III. He never chased fame the way fame chased him. He voiced the villain Hacker on the animated series Cyber Chase for over 130 episodes. Most people never even knew it was him. That's the kind of actor he is. The work matters more than the credit. And he kept coming back to Doc. A short film for the 30th anniversary, a cameo in The Mandalorian, a fan expo reunion with Fox, where the two of them fell right back into Marty and Doc like no time had passed at all. Because for them, it hadn't. In 2025, at 86, he showed up on Netflix's Wednesday as Professor Orloff, a character whose head is preserved in a jar. Prosthetics, effects, and all the old electricity still crackling underneath. He didn't slow down at 86. He simply chose calmer rooms to work in. Today, at 87, Christopher Lloyd is aging with incredible grace. He lives a peaceful life, paints on a smaller canvas now, but still says yes when the right role calls. The man who almost skipped the audition became the reason a generation believed that friendship has no age limit, that curiosity is never wasted, that the wildest person in the room might be the wisest one too. Doc told Marty the future hasn't been written yet. At 87, Lloyd is still proving that's true. But we can't close this story without honoring 2 voices that are no longer here to tell their own. James Tolkan didn't need many words. He just needed one. Slacker. He pointed his finger, and an entire school hallway held its breath. Strickland was the authority figure we all feared. The bald, booming disciplinarian who somehow followed you into adulthood. You hear that voice and you're 15 again, standing at your locker, hoping he doesn't notice you. What most fans never knew was the man behind that finger. Tolkan spent 25 years in New York theater. He was part of the original cast of Glengarry Glen Ross. He stood toe-to-toe with Tom Cruise in Top Gun and told him his ego was writing checks his body couldn't cash. 2 unforgettable lines, 2 different films, the same unmistakable face. In January 2025, he reunited with Michael J. Fox at a fan expo. The photo shows Tolkan, 93, pointing sternly at Fox. One last time. 2 old friends playing the scene that started it all. James Tolkan left us on March 26, 2026, at 94. Peacefully, at home. In a small town in upstate New York, surrounded by the life he chose. And then there is Wendy Jo Sperber. She was Linda McFly, the sister who couldn't stop talking about boys and phone calls, the one fighting her brother for the answering machine. She made the McFly kitchen feel like every family's kitchen, loud, messy, real. Sperber had worked with Zemeckis and Gale across 4 films before Back to the Future. She'd already shared a set with Mark McClure in I Wanna Hold Your Hand. When they became Dave and Linda, they were already family. Sperber left us in 2005 at 47. But what she built before she went is still standing. She founded We Spark Cancer Support Center in Sherman Oaks. Free support, free community. No therapist asking how you feel. Just people sitting beside people, the way she believed it should be. Her friend, actress Nancy Allen, carried on the work after she was gone. Every rerun of Back to the Future is a small hello from both of them. Tolkan's finger is still pointing. Sperber's laugh is still filling that kitchen. They left us something the credits never show. They left us the feeling that we were part of this family too. 41 years. That's how long this film has been part of us. Not because of the special effects or the time travel, because of the people, the ones on screen who made us laugh and cry and believe, and the ones beside us on the couch who made it matter. Somewhere, The Power of Love is playing in a grocery store, and someone just stopped walking for half a second. Somewhere, a kid is watching a silver DeLorean hit 88 miles per hour for the very first time. And somewhere, Strickland is still pointing that finger. The McFlys are still at the dinner table, and Doc is still standing in a parking lot, arms wide open, waiting for lightning. So let me ask you this. When you think of Back to the Future, where were you? Not in Hill Valley, in your life. Who was next to you? What did the room smell like? I'd love to read that memory. They're the reason this channel exists. There are more stories like this one waiting. More faces you grew up with. More lives that took turns you'd never guess. Because these people were never just characters. They were part of how we grew up. And we're still here, remembering together.